Hi everyone, it's me, Spring, the fiber enthusiast, and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to finish off this sock. We started with a different one and we've worked through the heel on a different one, but I'm to the point of doing the cast off at the cuff at this point. And I want to show you how to do a stretchy bind off or cast off, so that way when you get to this point and you want to bind off, you can still get it on your foot. Because if you do it in a standard way, chances of it actually being stretchy like the rest of the sock and come up over your foot could be slim to maybe 1 out of 10 times you'll get it, especially when you're just starting off. Now, if you cast off in pattern and you're casting off, knit one, purl one, knit one, purl one in that manner, you will have a little bit more stretch than usual. However, it's still not going to be as stretchy as this technique I'm getting ready to show you. It is a fantastic technique. I learned it a couple of years ago, and I absolutely love it for stuff like this. Now, as for this sock, I did a toe box area video first, and then you just work round around until it is as long as you need. And then we did a mock short row heel, and then we picked up and went around on the leg for as tall as you want it to go up your leg. And then last but not least, we have a 1x1 ribbing for the cuff. The cuff is just simply doing knit one, purl one, knit one, purl one all the way around for the height of the cuff you so desire. So now we're down to, let's get it off the needle so we can put it on our foot, right? All right. So I'm going to back off of this stitch. I just did it to keep my stitch marker from falling off. I'm going to go ahead and remove that stitch marker now. And I will be zooming in so that way you can see this better. Okay, so here we are. We have our first 2 stitches, and we're going to work them in pattern. So the first one is a knit, and the next one is a purl. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to take our left needle and we're going to go into those 2 stitches through the back like that. And we're going to purl those 2 together. Okay? And take it off. So that's a purl. Our next stitch is a knit stitch. So you knit the next stitch. Insert your left needle back into that stitch and the one prior, and knit those 2 stitches together. Okay. Now the next stitch is a purl stitch. So you're going to bring that yarn to the front and purl the stitch as normal. Slide it off. With your yarn in the front, you're going to insert your needle into those 2 stitches, the one you just did and the one previous. And we're going to purl those 2 stitches together. All right, next one is a knit. We'll keep working through a few more together. So the next one is a knit. Now you're going to insert your needle, left needle, into those stitches. And knit them together through the back loop. Okay. Purl, bring your yarn to the front, purl your next stitch, remove it, keep your yarn to the front, insert your left needle back into those stitches, purl those stitches together. Okay, your next stitch is a knit stitch. So knit that stitch, insert your needle back into those 2 stitches, and knit those 2 stitches together. The next one is a purl stitch. Purl that stitch, insert your needle back into those 2 stitches and purl those 2 stitches together. The next stitch is a knit stitch, so knit that stitch. Insert your left needle back into those 2 stitches and knit through the back loops, the back legs of that stitch. Knit those 2 stitches together. So we're still binding off, and essentially we are binding off in pattern, but what that does is it gives us a lot more stretch in our bind off. Another thing is when you're working your bind off, you don't want to really cinch down those stitches, because if you do that, what you're doing is you're tightening up all of your stitches along the way. So I'm going to zoom back out, and we're going to work just a little bit more together. So this next stitch is a purl stitch. I'm going to purl that stitch, and then I'm going to insert my left needle into both of those stitches like that, and purl them together just like that. Knit the next stitch, insert the needle back into those stitches, and knit through the back legs of that stitch. So we're knitting and purling 2 together, but how we're doing it is just slightly different than normal. All right, let's do these last few stitches together, and I'll show you how to sew in the end here. Get towards the end and the stitches are always slippery and want to jump off. Okay, one last stitch, and we will be done. There we go. All right. So here I am. I'm at the very end, my last stitch here. I'm just going to pull up a loop so I don't lose it. All right, so now I'm going to cut just a little tail here, get rid of the excess. I usually have a little crochet hook hanging around just to pull that loop through, the tail through that loop, that last loop there. And I'm going to just tighten it up a little bit. Now we got to sew these two together, but we don't want to lose what we have. We want to keep that stretch going. That's why I put a little slip knot there, so that way I don't accidentally get it too tight. So now go ahead and get your tail threaded on a needle, and I will meet back up with you and show you how I connect the two. Okay, so I'm using a very large blunt end darning needle, and because I want to weave in my tail on the inside of the sock, I'm coming from the outside of the sock, so the ribbed edge here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be coming in through where the very first stitch of the round is, right there. So I'm going to come in under that first stitch, come all the way through, and I'm going to go till it meets the knot that I made. That's it. I'm not going to cinch it down super tight, just to the knot. Now I'm going to go back over to where the knot is and go through that last stitch that we made when we were binding off. I'm going to go through it, and I'm going to go back through that first stitch one more time, just to kind of pull that together. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start working the tail back and forth through these stitches, just gently working my way down this rib here. The closest one to where we bound off, I just figure eight back and forth through this rib. Now this is how I bind off. Sew in my tail end. If you do it a different way, that is completely and entirely up to you. I will work my needle through the actual yarn itself. Even with a blunt tip needle, you can still split the strands and go through them. And that helps because when you wash it, it actually will felt a little bit. Another thing that you can do is you can separate your strands. See if I can get them to stay away from each other here a minute. So right here, I've got it separated into 4 different strands. You can take each strand individually, independently, and sew them in different directions. That will help with bulk in one area. So if I take this strand now and I weave it in and out over here, and then another one next to it, what it does is it takes that little bit of bulkness that you will receive and knocks it down just a little bit. So there's a couple ways to sew in your end, but I always try to connect them 2 together at the top, and then I'll weave back and forth through one of the ribs that is closest to where I'm done binding off, And as I said, you can separate out your strands of sock yarn, potentially depending on the yarn, and sew them in independently, and that will help with keeping the bulk down in one area. So if I take and put this back up like this, and of course you'll have to excuse the strands because now I'm going to sew them in independently, you will notice that there is a flare, just a slight flare. But here's the thing, when you put it on your leg, you won't even notice because it's going to go like this. It's going to stretch out a little bit. That's the idea between the stretchy cuff and your stretchy bind off. You want that give, and you can see that cuff has all kinds of stretch. Let me go ahead and zoom back out. So here you can see all kinds of stretch on that cuff. You won't have to worry about it being too tight to go over the top of where your heel turn is and at the widest point from your foot to your leg. So over the heel and your instep. That gives you plenty of room to do that. That is one of the biggest things working toe up, I find, in a lot of beginner knitting of socks and working toe up, is you get hung up on not being able to get it on your foot because your bind off is way too tight. So that is just an example as to how to do a stretchy bind off for the cuff of this sock, how I will be doing the other that you've seen me working on so far for the toe up. But yeah, so I hope you have enjoyed this little series of toe up knitted socks. And if you have any questions or would like more information, more tutorials on knitting socks or, you know, how-tos, things like that, please let me know down in the comment section, and we'll work on getting you set up with whatever you're looking for. And yeah, be blessed, be a blessing, and until next time, bye for now, everyone.